It crept up on me.
What's that? The timing of the show?
The timing of the show, it all crept up on me. I I forgot to do something and then got distracted, and then suddenly it was time to start the show.
What did you forget to do?
I forgot the pairing. I forgot to come up with a pairing
Ah,
for this movie. I think I might have one, but I'm very, very disappointed in myself. But to make up for it, I came up with a new thing that we need to do every week. So,
oh, cool. Oh, great.
which we'll get to later.
I'm
So,
anxious to hear what that is.
yeah. So that'll be we'll do the pairing, we'll do the who are we, and then I have a new thing for us to do that I think will be a lot of fun.
Okay.
So, how are you? It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. I haven't seen you in a week, so
It's actually been more than a week because last week was our first pre-recorded show, so it feels like a long time since we've done the show.
yeah. Anytime there's a hitch in the schedule, throws me terribly. I don't know what to do with myself.
Really?
Yeah, because there's also a schedule movie watching time to cover these movies in the
Gotcha.
appropriate time to talk about them, and then that throws everything into chaos.
I know, because we put a lot of work into this.
But that was a fun interview. I'm glad we did that.
That
That
was a
New
fun
Year's show.
interview. I was very happy to meet him. Who was it again? No, Peter Stray.
Peter Stray.
It was
Peter
terrific.
Stray from
Yeah,
Wales, and with his film Canaries. It
which I loved.
was a good time.
And I went on a television and movie watching, just went right down the rabbit hole this past week. Watched all kinds of stuff.
Really great.
You'd think I have no life. I
Mm-hmm.
watched so many other things. I watched the entire new drop of The Morning Show, um, which, interestingly enough, is directed by Mimi Later, uh, who directed, I think, Deep Impact, the movie that we're
Yes,
doing next week.
that's correct. That's correct.
Um,
That
and
is absolutely correct.
loved The Morning Show. Complicated, interesting show. I don't know if you watched any of it.
It's not a movie, is it?
No, it's a TV series.
Probably missed it.
Missed
Probably
it.
didn't see
Okay,
it.
so you only want to hear about the movies I watched. Okay, I watched
No, that's not. I didn't. That's not to say I don't want to hear about him. I just, you know, I,
I,
I'm.
I watched The Royal Tenenbaums.
I turned mom onto that. This last week as well. She just saw it.
Well, she turned me onto it, which is why I
Oh,
watched it.
you'd never seen it before.
I had not seen it before, and I loved it. Um, it felt somewhat autobiographical.
There are
Um,
a lot of strange things about watching that film.
yes. And we can talk about that in our group therapy if you want, instead of here.
That's
Um,
yeah, that starts at 11:30 tonight on YouTube. So if you want to
yeah,
check that out.
join in on that. I watched The Harder They Fall
Oh, cool.
with Idris Elba,
Yes.
who is a spectacular cast and a
I
lot of fun.
I think I recommended that to you. I know I was
I believe you did.
a fan of that movie. That's a really good movie, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed that movie. Um, I watched Sabotage,
Alfred Hitchcock's
Alfred
Sabotage.
Hitchcock's Sabotage, in which, um, no matter what Dad says, I was able to completely distinguish between him and Sylvia Sidney. I don't think they're at all alike.
What did he say about that?
Oh, it's the old story where apparently they were not getting along, and he showed up at the theater one night and said 30 years, she heard her say in her dressing room, heard her shout in her dressing room about him, 30 years from now he will be nothing, and I will be Sylvia Sidney. And he said, and now it's been 30 years, and I wanna knock on her door and say, it's been 30 years and you are nothing, and I am Sylvia Sidney. But he's not. She is a revelation in that movie.
Oh, she was so great. Sylvia Sidney was so great. Yeah, really
That's
modern actor. I thought, on camera, like surprisingly modern in her approach.
in a movie from 1936.
Yeah,
And Oscar Homolka just
he was great in Stripes.
that's Hulka.
Oh,
Hulka.
I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Oscar Homolka is wonderful in Sabotage. And then I watched Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, that's he's in a video game. He lives
Yep.
in a matrix. Okay.
Yeah.
All
A
right.
lot of fun.
Wow, you really did see a lot of stuff.
Very
Okay.
diverting. And then I started watching this new British detective show called Vera, starring Brenda Blethyn as the detective, and it's spectacular.
Wow.
Available on BritBox.
Well, that's impressive.
Oh, and I started watching The Shrink Next Door.
Is that a TV show?
It's a TV series with Will Ferrell and Paul Rudd, based on a true story, taken from a podcast about a true story, a relationship between a guy and his shrink, where the shrink starts to get a little too enmeshed in his life, and it's very disturbing and very interesting, and really fun watching Will Ferrell do something serious.
He can be good at that.
He's very good in it, really good.
That's exciting. That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So clearly I haven't even had time to go to the bathroom since the last time we spoke. With all the stuff,
that's overrated. That's overrated anyway. I've been watching a lot of stuff too.
What have you watched?
Well, let's see. I'm a maniac with my lists of stuff that I watch and seen, and I make year end lists, compiling all the stuff I've liked and little notes on stuff. So I was busy doing that. And in the interim,
in your Bujo, were you using your Bujo to make the lists and notes?
Yeah. I keep a full log of everything I see in there, and then I translate that into different documents.
Oh, that's a great idea. I should start keeping track of what I watch in my Bujo. Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, yeah, it's really handy especially as I get older and you watch a lot of stuff, and some of it melts together. So it's nice to have, a reminder. And anything like notable that you like about it, like particular performance or thing.
Right. Noise, as my daughter would say.
So, but I lucked out because it turned out Mom, for some reason, had a bunch of screeners that she didn't even know why they sent them to her. They're not SAG screeners. So I got to see some really cool stuff, including Licorice Pizza.
Nice.
And which is great. And the new Bond movie, and House of Gucci, which is quite something.
All right.
Nightmare Alley, a lot of different stuff. So it's been a good kind of beginning of the movie year.
What is Nightmare Alley again?
That's the new Guillermo del Toro movie.
Oh, how is it?
It's cool. I like it.
That's the one with all the people, right? All the different people in it.
Different actors in it. There.
No.
I don't know what you mean by that.
There's on the 405, you drive by a building and they have a thing of all of these different actors in some movie, and I'm wondering if it's Nightmare Alley or
could be another movie with actors in it, though. I don't know.
Perhaps it is.
I don't live in LA, so I don't know what the 405 looks like. I'm really behind on this.
I've been watching a lot of movies with actors in them, so I get
this is Bradley Cooper and Richard Jenkins.
Yes.
And Toni Collette And
Yep.
yeah,
That's it. That's the building on the 405,
it's
just north of the
it's
airport.
it's half. It's I liked half of it very very much. Um, I'd be interested to hear what you think about it because it's a noir. It's kind of a noir take. You
Yeah.
know, it's not a horror movie per se. Um, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, I am going to see it. Um, so I guess, new year, new month, new topic for our movies. We're covering a whole new category of film. Um, I got a little confused because when you said that this month was going to be disaster movies, I thought we were going to be watching things like Ishtar and
Right. Heaven's
and
Gate.
Heaven's Gate, yeah,
Right.
things like that.
Hmm.
But you meant movies that the subject of the movie was something
A
disastrous that
movie that
happened.
depicts a disaster,
Gotcha.
not a movie that was a disaster.
Okay.
Actually, to argue Heaven's Gate, it wasn't really a disaster. It was a disaster for the studios. It's a good movie.
Okay. Um, but so we're kicking off with 1972's The Poseidon Adventure.
Poseidon.
Poseidon. I was Poseidon myself.
The Joe Biden adventures. Yes. 1972's The Poseidon Adventure.
Right. And it's a very easy movie to describe what it's about. It's not heavy on plot.
No?
Do you think
No.
it's
No,
no,
I'd think about it for a second.
no.
No, it's not.
It's not heavy on plot. There's a big ship, an ocean liner. It's New Year's Eve. It's the New Year's Eve party. There's an earthquake that causes a tidal wave. The ship capsizes.
Capsizes.
And
Poseidon.
yeah, Poseidon. The ship capsizes, and 99% of the people decide it's safer to do this, which kills them all. And a small band of people decide to do this that can lead them to some sort of salvation and rescue.
For those
And
listening at home, when Matthew says do this, he is pointing one way with his hands. And when he
Yeah.
says do this,
Yeah.
he's pointing another way with his hands.
The bursar says we all need to stay here and we'll be rescued. And a preacher played by Gene Hackman says, no, we need to make our way up to the bottom of the boat because the boat is upside down. And if we go up and back towards the stern, which is the back of the boat, the bow is the front, the stern is the back. That's where the hull is the thinnest and where we have a chance of actually being rescued from. And because he's a preacher, he's an expert in these matters. And a small band of people follow him, and it follows their exploits as they try to get rescued from this upside down boat.
That's pretty elaborate description. I think yeah, those are things that happen in this movie, but I don't know if you could call this the plot of the movie because I really think the plot is about a group of about 10 people climbing through shaftways. It's really the plot.
But that's not a good title. 10 people climbing through shaftways. It's not a movie you're going to go see.
It doesn't evoke the kind of mythologically Greek atmosphere that the Poseidon adventure does.
The Poseidon. So, my question is, how do we want to go about discussing this movie? Because there are many different topics we can cover. We can talk about, well, there's a lot of things we can't really talk about. Like we can't really talk about the cinematography, I don't think, because it's sort of like,
well,
I'm stuck. I have to shoot them doing whatever it is they're doing.
Yeah,
there's not a lot of visual storytelling in this movie.
No, there's not. I mean, there's some, you could argue that there is some really, really, blatant design elements and visual storytelling that are really obvious and kind of awful. Like the giant Christmas tree that they used to climb up the to the second story.
Well, I have that. That for me is under symbolism. To discuss the Christmas tree, that you
Right.
climb the Christmas tree towards salvation.
Sure. But I mean, you could symbolism. It's visual storytelling. It's different things, but it's
Yes.
not all these choices are obvious and kind of poor. And I
Yeah.
yeah. Let's start. Here's where I'd like to start.
The cast.
No, in a personal. I'd like to start more personally.
Oh.
What's your relationship to this movie? Have you ever seen it
Um.
before?
Yes, I have seen it before, and actually, I do have a relationship with the movie, which is that the only thing I remember, because I saw it when it came out, so I was 12, and the last image of, well, you're talking to a guy who at the age of 6 or something had a frickin' I'm trying to remember what movie it was. It's a wet. You'll know. I'll tell you what happened, and you'll say, "Oh, that's this movie." There was a movie, a western, in which I think at the end, Carl Malden's legs get shot up, and he's in a stream, and the hero doesn't kill him, and he's bleeding out in the stream, and he's saying, just finish it, kill me, finish it, and our hero rides away, leaving this guy to die in the stream, begging him to kill him. Is this ringing a bell?
It sounds familiar. I actually don't know what it is.
Okay. I was 6 or something. I had a nervous breakdown. I had
Okay.
a nervous breakdown, crying. Why didn't he? Why is it? Oh my God! So
Right.
I just. Wait. Somebody made a comment. Maybe they're telling us what movie this is.
I hope so.
Oh no, it's Danny Nero, a friend of mine. So can I suggest you show the picture taken on the set the day after Hackman won his Oscar for The French Connection with all of the other actors and their Oscars? Oh. We would show that, Danny, except we do this on YouTube, but it primarily drops as a podcast. So I will try to remember to put a link to that photograph in the comments of the podcast so that people can go look at it.
What was he asking to see?
There's apparently a photograph that was taken on the set of the Poseidon adventure the day after Hackman won his Oscar for
okay.
The French Connection, which is that's a cool bit of trivia. Thank you, Danny.
I would like to see that.
I would like to see that photograph. So we'll find that and post it. So the end of this movie with Gene Hackman hanging from the, spoiler alert, if you don't want to know what happens at the end of the movie, turn off the show now. The end of the movie with him hanging from the wheel that turns the valve to turn off the steam, where he argues with God and then sacrifices himself to save everybody else, upset me greatly at 12 years old.
It upset me greatly as an adult.
It upset you that you had to watch that?
The things about it did. I actually kind of remember that too. I didn't see it in the theater, but I feel like everybody's seen the Poseidon Adventure several times in their life because it's been at a party. It's been on its own, and everybody knows somebody who loves disaster movies. It's always been around, at least in my life, and that was I remember that as a kid being kind of freaked out by that, and thinking that he's hanging from this valve, what is, I guess it's like what do you call it? Like a valve closure, like this wheel that you turn to close this valve, which is clearly heating up because it's got a steam pipe on it. So it's burning hot. And he's got to hold on to it over a flaming pit of doom.
Yeah. And argues with God. How many more? How many more? What do you want? It's
Yeah, it's well, they lay it on. It's the schmaltz is heavy. It's I don't know who we have to thank for that. Paul Gallico, who wrote the novel, or Sterling Silliphant, who should have known better. But there you have it.
Well, Sterling Silliphant, Sterling Silliphant was unbelievably prolific,
Yeah,
but not a lot of stuff that I mean, tons of stuff that but not a lot of stuff that you look at as these are, A-list screenplays. I mean, In the Heat of the Night was a big deal. But other than that, it's things like Route 66 and Naked City and
yeah. I think if I'm not mistaken, he did a lot of ghostwriting, or like, was hired on to work on stuff a lot.
we're not doing ghost movies this month though. We're doing
Oh, that's
disaster.
true. And
Yeah.
as we established earlier, he's alive. No, I
Yeah.
don't know if he is.
You
But
made that joke last week.
I did. But they lay it on really heavy. It kind of, the thing, and we'll get into the other aspects of the movie. But the thing that ultimately my takeaway was like, is this the ten? Like this, it was like the Ten Commandments. This movie, it has this incredibly pious religious overtone to it.
That's the pairing. There we go. I couldn't
So-
come up with a pairing for this movie, and that's the pairing: the Ten Commandments and the Poseidon Adventure.
Yeah, I think actually that's a good one. That's actually a good one because it feels like it. They lay it on real heavy,
Really
and you're
heavy.
kind of like, at what drive-in do you think people are really caring about this God thing that you got going on in this ridiculous disaster movie?
Yeah, the sermon is his sermon on the deck before the disaster
It's one for the books.
is a disaster.
It's one for the books.
Yeah.
Incredible that, and I wouldn't say that Gene Hackman is bad in this, but I would say that it's a character that's probably impervious to good acting.
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't, it's certainly not his fault, but I don't know anything about this guy at all. Like, none of it made sense. None of it gelled. I didn't even understand why in God's name he'd be on that boat to begin with, and they never.
Because he's going to Africa to take on a new he's been banished from the States to go to Africa.
I understand why he's making a voyage. I don't understand why he's on that giant Queen Elizabeth ship to do it. That's the part that I was like,
oh,
wow.
You mean taking a cruise to Africa
Yeah,
rather than
just like you're just
flying,
or taking, or like doing like some kind of like a, cross Atlantic cargo ship or something.
Oh, well, I think I know the answer to that, actually.
You can't he can't wear his fancy white turtleneck. Otherwise,
No, because they need that character on the boat or the rest of the movie.
I should have thought of that. So you'd seen it before. You saw it in the theater when it came out. It affected you. It scarred you a little bit as a kid. Did anything else about it stick with you, or just the general? Like the general, because you see the poster of this movie and you kind of get the whole movie. It's not.
Yeah. For some reason, I remember a scene that I don't now recall having watched the movie again. For some reason, there was a scene in my memory of Shelley Winters completely wigging out and screaming and having a total freak out.
Which she does in almost every movie.
She does that in almost every movie, but she doesn't really do that in this movie.
No,
Does
she
ever
actually.
freak out?
Well, she gets a little hysterical, but she doesn't have a total panic attack. She usually has a panic attack in a movie,
Yeah,
and she didn't.
My recollection was of a full-blown freakazoid screaming meltdown, and
You may be conflating that with memories of her from The Magician of Lublin. Because full disclosure, Matthew and I had the incredible pleasure of meeting Shelley Winters on the set while she was working with our father.
I forgot about that.
And there were some fun stories about working on the set on that movie, which I think we should cover that film, frankly, at some point.
Okay.
And I think she had a freak out in that film. and also on camera in the movie, it's in character how to freak out as well.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
you might be thinking of that.
All right. Okay.
Here's a weird thing for me. I have a weird connection to this movie. I have a weird emotional reaction to it, but I couldn't. I don't really know what it is because it's not that. Nothing in it scarred me, but I think because there's another person who we've met like in it, and Jack Albertson. I remember meeting as a kid.
Yep.
He knew Dad.
Yeah.
And I think I was young enough to know him, but also not quite young enough to get that it wasn't Jack Albertson in trouble. Like he's this kindly elderly guy who's trapped in this boat, and it's pretty awful to think of what he's going through. And I didn't really differentiate between actors and characters at that point,
Right.
So I thought he was in jeopardy, and I just remember feeling much more freaked out about the movie than there'd be any reason to be freaked out about this movie at all. And I think it's because I thought Jack Albertson was actually in trouble. And then I realized I conflated this movie with Willy Wonka because of the elevator and the giant. I thought that somehow that elevator ride in Willy Wonka was in this ship.
Oh, I love that.
So
that's great. Willy Wonka and the Poseidon Adventure.
I got all kinds of things mixed up. It was great. It was an exciting watch. Set a lot of things straight.
Danny Nero makes this great comment here. He says, I was there as a 19-year-old because my mom was one of the featured dress extras who was given the line, "The purser's right," as Hackman was pleading for everyone to follow them up the Christmas tree.
Wow.
And I think that's actually Danny, one of the best written lines in the movie, actually.
There are a couple great zingers in here, but that was one of the memorable ones. Fascinating. This must have been. I thought mostly what I thought while I watched it was what kind of a horrible experience it was making this movie. Like that's mostly what I was thinking about.
Well, I did some reading on that, and it actually seems like they had a lot of fun. They got into sort of the actors got into sort of a little bit of a competition about doing their own stunts with each other, like, oh, I'm gonna do that, because they did a lot of their own stuff.
Well, you can see it's not they are really doing stuff in it. That is one of the cool things about the movie is that, like, for instance, Shelley Winters, who gained 30 pounds apparently to play this part because the character is, apparently a very big lady and not really incapable of doing things you think, but then she kind of surprises everybody. That's my favorite shot in the movie when she surprises us. So yeah, they really are doing all their own stuff. Ernest Borgnine is swinging for the fences. He's clearly showing off.
Oh my God. And actually, Shelley Winters, I too, I have that written down, is that I love that she gets her heroic moment. And it actually gave rise to my favorite line of dialogue in the whole film, which was, "You see, Mr. Scott, in the water, I'm a very skinny lady." That was the only line in the movie that I sat up and took notice about.
Oh, I took notice of lines way earlier than that. For instance, after the ship capsizes, and there's an amazing sequence where actors are doing all kinds of things, including sliding on a real set that's tilted, and including just being on a roller skate and going by camera real fast and going, oh!
Wait, hold on a second.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Everything kind of settles, and people are like finding each other and licking their wounds, and Ernest Borgnine runs into his wife, Linda. Linda, played by Stella Stevens. And she says, "Where you been?" And he goes, "Where have I been? I've been flying around on my ass." Full stop. I had to pause. I was like, pause. I'm going to go I have to get something to drink. I got to come back.
I've been
flying around on my ass. I've been flying around on my ass. I'm guessing an improv that they said is too good to lose. for the movie, so they kept it in.
Wow. I can't watch Ernest Borgnine in anything ever without just hearing, "She is his mother," which was his line in Jesus of Nazareth when the sublime now I'm blanking on it, Olivia Hussey playing the Virgin Mary is trying to get to Jesus on the cross, and the centurions won't let her through, and she says, I'm his mother, I'm his mother," and the centurions are like, "Yeah, right." And Ernest Borgnine is the head centurion, says, "She is his mother." That's I can't look at her.
It's lodged in your face. Yeah, yeah. He's a lot. He gives his all.
He gives his all every time.
It's fantastic to see. This movie feels like it reminds me of a time, and it feels like this is like a night of Hollywood Squares. That they're actually it's like a special episode of Hollywood Squares.
Not only that, but I think a lot of these same people then went on to appear on the Love Boat.
No, oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I the biggest sadness for me is that in the very beginning of the movie we lose Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah.
Probably the greatest ship captain of all time.
Except, I have a question for you. They see that wave coming on the radar for about 10 minutes, right? It's on the radar, they can see it.
Yeah.
And it's not until they look out the window that he says, "Turn left, 80 degrees or whatever," to go straight into, because the way you have to go over a big wave is head on. You don't take it sideways, right? I don't know anything about sailing. I know that much. Hit it head on to go over it and through it, not sideways to get knocked over by it. It's on the radar. They know where it is. They know it's coming, and he doesn't say turn until he sees it out the window.
Well, I think you've hit on an interesting thing. There's a lot of discussion online about this, but let's face it, he killed them all on purpose. It really reframes
on purpose.
It really reframes the movie when you think about the fact that this is a captain gone completely mad on New Year's. And because it happens immediately on the if the ball were dropping, that's when the wave hits the boat. And
that's right.
I mean, you're absolutely right. There's no logical reason why he wouldn't have done that move ahead of time when he knew where it was.
Right. I mean, it may not have done it. The wave was so big that maybe they would have been swamped. But still,
I like this reading on the movie. I like the reading that this is a maniac captain who tries to kill everybody on the boat.
Because he's so angry at Lenarcos, the corporate guy who's like, don't take on any more ballast.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's played by the great Fred Sadoff, who is one of the original That Guys. I mean, that guy has been in everything.
That guy is a That Guy. Yes.
Ever produced. If you look at him up on IMDb, if it's like there was a law passed that you cannot have a TV series.
Guy never played gangsters, did he? No, guess not. So I really enjoyed watching this mess. I really did. But it's just shy of being highly recommendable for that kind of movie, because it really does get tiresome. I mean, there's a long stretch in here where they're just climbing through passageways and trying to come up with little vignettes and little moments between characters that are all just completely leaden and ridiculous and
horrible,
awful.
Well, and you mentioned something earlier about Gene Hackman being stuck in this role that is maybe
Unactable,
unactable.
yeah.
There's a role that is even more unactable than his role in this movie, which is Carol Lynley's character is just
That's one of the drippiest characters in the history of film.
and why Red Button's character, I understand why he wants to rescue her, not leave this poor emotional, intellectual. I mean, she's really deficient in every way, other than being cute.
I
But to play that role, oh my God, it's the most thankless role.
well, I
And
mean,
her brother who dies in the attack, I think was actually played by Martin Short as as
as Dave Grohl.
no, the World of Illusion. The,
Doug Henning.
Doug
It was
Henning.
like Doug Henning, yeah. Yeah.
It was unbelievable. The hairdo,
Yeah.
just
Well, there's there's an incredible cast here. There's a lot of remarkable, notable people. I felt for 1972 that even for 1972, let me say, this was a ridiculously white cast. Like for a movie that's supposed to be about a large group of people, like that's supposed to represent like all of us, kind of like
right.
It was really like really not like nobody in here, everybody in here is a white person. I don't, it's not the first thing I always notice. Unfortunately, I should probably notice it more often. But this was just like, what? Really? Okay, nobody.
Yeah.
I stunned you into silence. I'm glad
no,
I've done that.
I got distracted by this. I'm going to put it up on the screen. Somebody named Galina Kudryavetseva has a message, but I don't understand it. But I had to put that up on screen just to show that I could still read Cyrillic.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Show off. Yeah.
Wow. So you actually read that.
I actually read that. She had put her name up there in Russian, and I was able to read it.
That's incredibly impressive.
I mispronounced the last name probably, but
no one would have known.
I got the first name.
No one would have known.
Director Ronald Neame, Daniel Nero says, was asked then in his 90s at a huge TPA screening on the Queen Mary if it was his favorite film. And he hesitated momentarily and said, no, but it did give me FU money.
That's great.
That's nice.
That's great. Thinking particularly of Ronald Neame, very British and proper Ronald Neame saying that. It's such a funny thing to think of why they get different people to direct or design movies. It's obviously a game with agents, just like it is with actors. And, people hustle for jobs and they vie for gigs and they get outbid and stuff. But this is one of those movies where I was like, Ronald Neame, where did you, what hat did you pick this out of? Because
he was primarily a cinematographer.
He was a great director, though. He was a very, very beloved British director and directed some of my favorite light comedies.
Like First Monday in October, which we've covered.
Well, that's not one of my favorites, but he did do others that I loved, including a movie called The Horse's Mouth, which is literally one of my favorite movies, and in any way kind of represents what I think of Ronald Neame's style. So to have him on board on this giant technical adventure fiasco is a really interesting choice, as is the DP who came from TV mostly, and then also did the movie MASH, which
he did MASH.
Like, you see MASH, and then you're like, get the guy who did MASH to do Poseidon Adventure. Like, what? Why would?
Yeah. And then other than that, just like you said, I looked at his IMDb, tons of television.
Yeah.
Just standard television.
So I guess they're like, what's good about guys like that is that they're used to working really fast.
Yeah.
but it's just so funny. It's just so different. The approach is so different than we have today. Like the kinds of folks they hire to do these gigs.
And 58 stunt people.
I heard nobody got hurt or killed.
That's pretty good. Can we talk for a minute about the very, very, very strange, and was I the only person to notice it, sexual tension between the preacher and Pamela Sue Martin?
I noticed it. We can talk about it. It wasn't hard to notice. It was pretty vivid.
Yeah, but they don't go anywhere with it. It's there. It's odd and not addressed. It thematically, it doesn't feed into the story in any way.
Yeah.
They don't show him like struggling with trying to be a good preacher, but I'm having these feelings. It's just there.
I think I know what it is, though. I think I know why. I think that represents the single biggest like sea change in our culture, right there where you're talking. Because I think in 1972,
yeah.
First of all, it's weird that Gene Hackman's in this movie. It just feels strange. Like it really, you think Charlton Heston should be in this movie. It feels like a Charlton Heston movie. Hackman is much too kind of nuanced and human to be in a movie like this. It seems like.
Yeah.
So if you think about somebody more like Charlton Heston being in it, it was that kind of a movie at that time. I think it was just, of course there'd be something sexual about any relation, any person that he was with. Like there was just that component to it no matter what. Like he's a man and she's a young woman, so of course, what do you expect? Like it's the 70s.
Yeah. Okay.
And like it just seemed like if you think of Charlton Heston in that part, then you just be like, well, of course they're trying to just sex it up because it was the 70s and that's what they did all the time.
And if they made the movie now, there'd be sexual tension between the preacher and the Pamela Sue Martin's younger brother, the young boy.
Sure. Yeah. Or between all the characters, and that's what the whole thing would be about. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the thing is like all of the fist shaking that Gene Hackman does in this movie, which I will describe as basically his acting method in this movie is fist shaking, would have worked if it was Charlton Heston doing it. It would have.
The movie would have made more sense. Hackman is so good an actor that for a while you're like, wait, is this a good? Are we trying to make a good movie here, or like a character thing, or like no, we're not interested. But then you look at like Towering Inferno, and they've got a lot of great actors. They got Paul Newman in there, and he's not given a lot to do. Everybody's making money here, they're all just making some money.
Well, you actually hit on something that this is this new thing that I want to do, because you mentioned about Charlton Heston, if that had been Charlton Heston playing that role. I want to talk about if we were to recast this movie now.
Okay.
Or not necessarily now, but I had an idea for recasting the preacher. I wasn't able to get through every character, but I have a couple of recasting ideas.
Oh, this is a great. I like this. This
Russell Crowe as the preacher
right out of the gate. That's a home run.
And I would have loved to see as the old Jewish couple, John Randolph and Doris Roberts.
That would be nice, except you do. That would be good, but except you do know that Judd Hirsch is contractually obligated to play that part.
Okay, so Judd Hirsch. If it's Judd Hirsch, who's the woman then?
Be Judd Hirsch and
and Fran Drescher.
Sure, Fran Drescher.
Okay. The captain. Who would we put in the captain?
The captain. I'm gonna say. It just came into my mind. Bobby Cannavale.
Okay. Yeah.
Because you're not going to expect him to die, and he dies too soon. So like you think Bobby's going to make it, but he doesn't.
Okay. Cop and his wife, the reformed hooker.
So the reformed hooker. So we got Ernest Borgnine and
Stella Stevens.
Stella Stevens.
who
Well,
actually I thought was surprisingly good in the movie.
Stella Stevens was
In
great.
terms of the performances, she
Her
was the standout for
and
me.
her dress is fantastic.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay. So Cop and Hooker, Jake Gyllenhaal, and somebody.
Could be Jake Gyllenhaal, yeah. Maybe Billy Zane,
Billy Zane. Yeah.
because he was in Titanic. We could kind of make a reference there.
Right.
Billy Zane and Billy Zane and Felicity Huffman.
Okay. For The Lonely Bachelor, I have an idea. The Red Button's Lonely
Okay.
Bachelor.
Okay.
I desperately want to see Mark Ruffalo playing that role.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was thinking Steve Carell would be good
Steve
too, but
Carell. Well, Steve Carell would be casting to type, and Mark
True.
Ruffalo would be like, "What is he doing?
what's he doing here? That's a good.
like-
Actually, it makes less sense, so it makes
He'd
more
bring
sense.
real depth to
Yeah,
the lonely
and make it
pathos.
more confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The crew member who dies,
Roddy McDowall?
who actually works his way through every region of the British Isles in terms of an accent during the course of the movie.
Yeah. Alan Cummings.
Alan Cumming as the crew member, and Carol Lynley, the singer.
Do you have some? Who's your pick?
I didn't have one for Carol Lynley. I was thinking maybe, and this would be a very sad choice because she's actually a very good actor, but would be Elizabeth Olsen.
Okay. Let's say Selena Gomez.
Oh yeah, that would be great. Selena Gomez, yeah.
Yeah.
Or after her turn in Don't Look Up, Ariana Grande.
Sure, to that too. This is a great game. I like this game a lot. Who's playing Gene Hackman?
Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, yeah. Oh, this is good. Okay, we're gonna do this again for our next week. So
we're doing it every week.
I'll need to work on this.
We have to go to, and this is another one that I didn't think of. I messed up, but we always have to do. Who would you be, and who would I be?
Oh, I have that. I have a clear.
I have it too, but I
Okay.
don't know if it's very good.
I think. Well, I'm gonna say who I think that you'd be.
Okay. Who do you
I
think
think
I
that
would be?
you would be Red Buttons.
Oh, really? That's funny because I put you down as Red Buttons.
Really?
Yeah.
You want to hear who I put myself down as?
Who'd you put yourself down as?
The dead brother.
The dead brother?
Yeah, Carol Lynley's brother.
Carol Lynley. I put myself down as Lenarco, the bad guy.
No, I thought you were either going to be Roddy McDowall or Red Buttons, but I think, you do better on the latter
I
than
do better on the
than Roddy
ladder.
McDowall.
Okay. I'll take it. Oh my gosh. What's your favorite, and I mean seriously favorite moment in the movie? Not oh, this is silly and crazy, but if there's a moment in the movie that you that spoke to you in some way as a piece of good writing. Oh, my friend Daniel Nero suggests John Goodman as the poster.
Excellent.
Very good. It's
Excellent
very good.
choice.
Is there a moment in the movie where you thought, wow, okay, they actually for a moment tapped into something interesting? Because I have one.
Well, I do. I mean, I don't have anything. I don't have anything small. I don't have like there aren't any moments for me like between actors or characters or writing that really struck me. It all felt pretty forced. So, but I do think that there is there's something brilliantly sublime about the actual boat overturning. There's a mixture of ridiculous stuff and really kind of staggering stunt work and set work going on. That's kind of crazy and wild, but it's an incredibly iconic movie moment. It's almost as big as like King Kong getting revealed,
Yeah.
or something. And it's easy to forget the impact of something like that in a movie at that time, when it's like it was the height of. I mean, there's no CGI effects to help them out. It's all kind of in camera. Almost all of it's in camera, except for a couple optical shots of the boat at sea and stuff. But seeing a set that large getting used like a toy box and having people flying around, I thought was just kind of fantastic. And it's really it's just a great sequence. So that was for me. But you have a character thing. You have like a little piece of writing.
I have a writing moment where there's a moment early in the movie, and I have to believe that it was intentional, where Gene Hackman and Shelley Winters, the Christian preacher and the Jewish woman, have this moment of talking about how there's nothing more important than life. And that struck me because there I don't know if it was conscious, but there is a thread in Judaism about there's all these rules in the Torah, right? The rules about kosher, the rules of respect the Sabbath, things that you can't do or things that you must do, but all of them can be violated if a life is at stake, right? Like, you are allowed to work on the Sabbath if it will save a life.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
For instance, would if somebody's life depended on me eating bacon,
you could eat bacon.
I could eat bacon.
So everything else falls to save a life. And that moment of and you don't hear that in Christianity, right? Very much, I don't think. There's a lot about sacrifice, etc. But he's a rebel, and the way they connect over that spoke a lot to me. It was the one moment in the film where I went, "Ooh, the writer's doing something interesting."
That's I can see that is interesting. I mean, I guess I tuned out a little bit because there was something about the Albertson and the Shelley Winters couple that I'm not going to say that I thought it was anti-Semitic, but there was just something about it that was like, it was a little anti-Semitic, right?
I'm not going to say that it was anti-Semitic, but it was anti-Semitic.
It's a little Semitic.
It's a little,
I mean, like,
abyssal,
and I'm not even talking about like the fact that it's an old Jewish couple that they're feeble, and then they're worried about them being able to do it. Like that part I can deal with, but there was an overall tone of like, there's a lot of there's a priest and there's a minister or preacher, in it. There's a very Christian kind of like concept to the whole thing, and it felt like they were being really big-hearted and generous to be sharing this boat with a Jewish couple somehow. Yeah. Like, it was like, we'll even talk to the Jewish people and connect with them.
Very stereotypical.
Very so I found that a little annoying, but despite that, I thought Albertson and Shelley Winters, they brought some humanity to it, and their scenes were probably among the most connected as actors that two people got. But then you have like a vignette between them is cutting to them sitting there, kind of her whimpering, and she says, "Manny, you still have your handkerchief?" And he says, "Yes, but it's not very clean." And that's the whole scene. And you're like, are you serious? Like, is there anything else that can be said here?
Another great piece of writing, though, they worked the what am I supposed to do with them? Shove them up my ass? The suppository joke, they actually work into the script in the scene with Stella Stevens getting the medication from the ship's doctor.
That's the kind of humor that you hope stays with the film, and unfortunately just does not.
No.
Yeah, I also really loved the bursar screaming, "Climbing to another deck will kill you all." What? What are you talking about, and why are you alarming everybody?
Yeah. Well,
I'm just gonna say it. Polyester white turtleneck was a disgusting choice.
not a good
It was
choice.
disgusting.
No.
I didn't want to see that after a while. It really got nasty.
Interesting bit of trivia too. Did you notice that Pamela Sue Martin and Stella Stevens, they are told very clearly they have to take their dresses off in order to climb up the Christmas tree. Nobody mentions that to Shelley Winters, and she's able to climb up the Christmas tree with her dress on.
So I'm saying it's 1972. It's the certain things are just not even considered as.
I wonder why.
Yeah, this is also a movie in which you get to see a crying Gene Hackman drool onto a dead Shelley Winters face.
Just in case your day wasn't complete.
Just in case you never saw that, you can see that now.
That's actually on the Weight Watchers website. That clip.
You will never eat again. You won't eat a thing. Yeah,
So, yeah, I think that's about all I've got on this movie. The band's hairdos are
pretty
great.
good.
Red Button's exercise routine. I still do that around the Silver Lake Reservoir. That's what I do to lose weight and keep my ticker in shape.
You don't like the line where Gene Hackman's talking to the priest and they're talking in front of everybody, and he's like, "You should really get these people to come," and he says, "I can't leave these people. I suspect we'll die." What? What are you? You're really giving up too soon. Shouldn't maybe say that in front of the people you're trying to calm down in an emergency. I suspect we'll die.
I think she'll die.
So she's, yeah.
Oh,
I don't know about you, but I want to remake this movie almost exactly the same. In fact, release it with just some CGI enhancements and stuff. Basically the same film. De-age some people, maybe.
Okay.
Because this is what I thought was going to happen at the end.
Yeah.
I still think about Charlton Heston somehow. Maybe that's what it was. But I'm like, they get to the hull, they start banging on the inside of the ship for the rescue mission, and they hear people coming, and then people, they see the acetylene torch cutting through the inch of steel, and the hatchway opens. I was like, how great would it be if they're in Planet of the Apes? How great would that be?
There you go.
They open the hatch and there's Dr. Zaius. It's J.J. Abrams' Poseidon adventure.
There we go. And I think we should close it out with this, that next year, according to my friend Daniel Nero, if you start watching the film at precisely 11:35, 28 seconds on New Year's Eve, you'll be right on time for the film's 10-second to midnight countdown.
I love it.
I love it. That is a great idea, Danny.
That's fantastic.
So, well, that's the Poseidon adventure.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
I think we covered it.
Shelley Winters, though, listen, honestly, people, just Google, just YouTube her rescue of Gene Hackman. This is a great kind of surreal, wonderful moment in the movie, because she goes on this dive and she kicks butt. It's amazing. And these crazy underwater shots of her like climbing, swimming through these cabins and tunnels and saving him.
She did it.
She really did it. It's really cool.
She trained for that. So next week we continue our disaster movies.
Excuse me. This is a disaster.
Well, pardon me. With Deep Impact, as we said, directed by Mimi later, Robert Duvall, Taya Leone, Morgan Freeman, Maximilian Schell, who will
And
take us in
through
and beyond.
wait for it. And beyond.
Yes.
And also,
if you don't know that reference, go listen to our episode on what was the name of the movie?
The Black Hole.
The Black Hole.
Der Blacken Holen.
And your very good friend, my friend, but your very good friend, and I don't say that because I don't like him, I just don't know him as well as you do, Joe Erla.
My dear friend Joe Erla is also in the movie, and that it means that, if we play our cards right, maybe he'll come and talk to us about it.
Oh my God.
I know that Joe has fun stories about this movie.
What cards can I play to make that happen?
You don't have to play any cards. I have to make a phone call and see if he's free.
A phone call. See if Joe Erla will join us. That'd be fantastic. So please join us next week for Deep Impact.
Please do.
And 1998's Deep Impact.
Right.
Watch it before then because we will spoil it for you.
This is a dental thriller. No, it's not. It's an adventure movie, and it'll be very exciting. Hey, if you feel like it and you like the show, stop by. Give us a little rating there on Apple Podcasts.
Yes,
it
Apple
helps a lot.
Help
if you like what you hear, give us some stars. If you like us, give us a review, or not. So it's totally your call.
If you don't like us, just do it. It's free.
Do what you want to do.
Yeah.
Do your thing.
Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the Apple Podcast.
It helps us. If you want to help us, that helps. If you don't want to help us, don't do that, because that would be more in keeping with your philosophy.
And we'll see you next week to talk about Deep Impact.
That's the truth.
Good night, everybody.